This is the Ink, Pray, Love podcast. We talk all things health, wealth, and community connection. Let's go. Welcome to this episode of the Ink, Pray, Love podcast. This episode is going to help you be more organized, more efficient, be a better entrepreneur, or start a business, or just better at life in general, because that's what this guest has done for me. I have the business minimalist, the Marie Kondo of business, the business efficiency strategist right here. She's helped me be the mom, wife, and all the things of my businesses, and helped me keep sense of all these tentacles that I keep growing all over the place because I am an octopus with attention deficit disorder. Thank you, Saskia and Mardi, for being on the show and helping us and helping me through my weird journey as an entrepreneur.
Yeah, thanks, Aren. It's interesting. I'm usually working in the back end of the office, and now hanging out with you on the front.
Yeah, I'm super happy to see it because you came and you were a guest teacher in Heart Warriors,
Yes.
and everybody loved your presentation.
Oh, amazing.
And they went out of their way to tell me like that was super valuable.
Aw.
And I was like, I know you have so much gold to give because you've been giving it to me, but I know the audience will really value the wisdom that you have to help people get into business, but get shit done, actually get shit done, and don't get lost in the sauce or, lost in the fluff, I guess, getting shit done.
I think that's the misconception that a lot of successful people do it on their own. There's always people like me hanging out in the back end that are helping keep shit organized and make sure that everything's running smoothly. So
100%. I remember it was definitely when I was building Karma House that I thought I could do it all. Because I did conscious arts by myself for the most part, other than some friends helping to paint and artists and, somebody do spreadsheets and stuff, but not like this to scale up. It was a rude awakening for me because I was like, I cannot do all this stuff, nor do I want to.
No.
I'm not a do-it-all guy.
No.
And it was humbling for sure, which is something I consistently need in my life. But it was also freeing.
Yeah.
And now I've really learned, and I think it was part of me maturing as an entrepreneur, seeing we need A players on the team, and you need people. Like people need people.
Yeah.
And when I found you and your skill set, it was so freeing for me to see that, okay, I can be in the visionary space.
Beautiful.
Are all the people that you are like a fractional, you're the chief operating officer for our businesses, but fractional, there's other businesses that you help. Do you also help weird characters like me as well, or are they some normal people that you have on the boat?
What is normal? I think most people that I work with go through a similar journey of what you described, is that they're the visionary type. They have an amazing amount of energy. They see all of the opportunities and none of the obstacles, and that's their magic, that they just create something and set it in motion and go for it. And that works for a certain amount of time. But then as you start to grow the business, you realize like, as much as you want to do it all yourself or you think you can, you really can't. There's only so far you're going to go without any kind of support. So the people who come to me, they are the visionaries. They have ADHD. They're creative. They've got all of this accelerator in them. But where I come in is sometimes I'm a bit of a break, where I'm like, actually, let's take a pause. Let's have a look before we go for all of these amazing ideas. Because, most people like yourself have 1,000 ideas every day. Not all of them are fantastic. Some of them are. Is to really press the pause button and say, okay, actually, before we take action on these things, let's stop and take a moment to see if this is really the thing we want to be taking action on. Yeah,
that's super important. I definitely needed that. I kind of introduced what you do, but from your end of it, not just telling me that I can't have a hot tub inside of the living room, but like, what would you state? How did you become what or who you are in the sense of helping people with business in this way?
Okay, so before I worked for myself, I worked in all sorts of different areas in corporate, but the main gist of it was working in the back end of the office. So whether that is an office manager or someone's assistant back in the day, but always making sure that the back end was running nicely so that the people at the front could really shine in their role. And I found that there were a lot of online business owners who, were really good at being the front of the office and really good at promoting themselves or having the ideas, but they struggled with making sure that they had the foundations in place to support them. So I kind of jumped in there and thought, okay, this is the stuff that I'm good at, and I get to choose who I want to work with, because as much as I loved my job back in corporate and I were not simpatico. The whole 9-to-5 hierarchy, all of that jazz was not for me. So creating my own business really allowed me to do the work I want to do, but with the people I want to work with.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Perfect. So it's great to see a solo entrepreneur working with other solo entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
And that's what I love. I think that's just the future. Like that's just what the future is going to be for people like us. And I think so many people listening are like, yeah, we want to have our own business, or we already do have our own business, and we need to work with other people who are their own business. And we're just a bunch of humans interacting, and it's not this hierarchy of things. It's more like, I got this, you got that. It was like, this is how I was actually as a drug dealer. I just worked with a bunch of other independent dudes who were like, I got this thing, you got this thing, cool, we'll meet up once a week. And that's what we do.
Kind of the same.
It's a strange,
same but different.
Same but different.
Yeah.
You help me clean up my business. We meet once a week.
Yeah.
And make sure that we're pushing the projects forward. And
well, I think that kind of nails it, is that it's about figuring out what you're great at.
Yeah.
And really leaning into that and recognizing and accepting that you can't do everything. But there are amazing people out there who love to do the things that you either hate or that you suck at or that you would rather not be doing. There are other people who are great at it and love to do it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Exactly. Because like ClickUp, like this is the app that you love and you're good at, and I'm not great at. Like, we'll put it in ClickUp. I'm like, yeah, because the spreadsheets and the techie stuff. I'm Indian. I'm not tech support. That's just not me. It's just
kind of a stereotype.
Yeah. This is not me. It's just not my thing. I want to talk to people. I want to bring in the talent. I want to bring in the business. I want to, connect with people. That's the creation aspect I love is peopling, people network, that stuff, connecting. But when it came down to actually the accountability of the team, setting structures in place, the back end of it is not my forte. And I realized it's like I could do it, but it'd be muscling it.
Yeah. And I find what I help my clients with generally is they have the big, amazing ideas. I'm not the ideas person, but you come to me with an idea and I'm like, yes, okay, this is how we're going to bring it into the real world.
Yeah.
Because often you and most of my clients, what makes you amazing is you see all the possibilities, but you're kind of living in the clouds with these ideas. Whereas I'm more grounding them, bringing them down to earth and being like, okay, that's really great in theory, but how are we going to actually make it work?
Yeah.
Which is part of the reason why I'm usually the break. I'm like, well, that's a great idea, but let's put that on the maybe pile. That's for the future. Let's just focus on one thing at a time.
Yeah. Because
I think it's better to take 10 steps in one direction rather than one step in 10 directions.
100%. And this has been the tentacles. I many things happening. And as long as we've been working together, you've seen that. It's like many things happening at once. But how much are we actually effectively doing all of them? And that's what's super helpful. I've really realized that about myself is I work well with people like you. I need people that are the kind of the balance.
The opposite.
Yeah. Whereas before, often in friends or say in relationships, like you want to be with someone just like you, you think.
Yeah.
Because it's like, no, we're the same. We're going to get along. It's like, no. In business, in connections, in pushing anything forward, you need the opposites.
Yeah.
And that's so important. So we can bounce off each other, balance each other in that sense is super, super important. That's why like with LightHouse, me and Monty are very different humans where we're shooting right now. And so he's kind of like the stern dad. I'm the fun uncle, but I'll bring in the connections and ideas and creativity. Perfect. Because he's not that. He's not the extrovert. He's like, no, you go talk to them. I'll be, I'll happily go talk to them. He goes, hey, what's up, guys?
Well, I think in business, it's the same in a relationship, right? You want to find someone who has the same values. You want to have someone who's trying to get to the same goal, but you don't have to have the same way of getting there. And it's finding someone that complements you that's in order to be able to help the journey there easier. Yeah. Right. And that's generally like with you, like with all of my clients, we are completely different people, but we have the same sort of North Star that we're working towards. And, we both bring different perspectives because sometimes I will shoot down an idea or I'll say something's not possible, but then you'll come with something else. And I was like, okay, actually, we could make that work. Or, if you really want something to happen, we'll figure out a way. And that's, I think, the beauty of finding a relationship that works is you do want to be different, but the really core values, they have to be aligned.
100%. Well, I have really value for that because I'll come up with ideas. I'm like, I got to run it by Saskia first. It's so helpful to have that because I'll be like, let me see what the voice of reason thinks.
Yeah. We've joked about me being your business wife. 100%. Right? Like, I just got to check with the ball and chain.
Let me just check it with the wife and see how it goes. It's so important. I value it so much to have those things. And I have the same with Monty here or with Dave with Yogi Lab, it's like these dudes and dudettes that are like, the voice of reason where I'm just like ideas and connections and people. And you're like, let me kick the tires on that. And I think that's super important.
And also let's look at the resources. Like, do we have the time? Do we have the money? Do we have the energy? Because I think basically every decision I like to ask myself is the energy exchange worth it?
Yeah.
Right? So like, what am I going to have to deliver? And it's not always money. Sometimes it's your time. Sometimes it's someone else's time. Or sometimes you're willing to do things for one situation, but not for another, because it depends on what you're getting in return.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's always good to really pause and take that moment and say, okay, so it's going to get me X, but it's going to cost me Y.
Yeah.
Is that worth it?
Yeah. And I think I had the problem where I would just say yes to everything.
Yeah.
I'd be like, yeah, let's do it all. Like,
Yeah.
I want to do all the
Because
things.
you're the ideas guys
Yeah.
and you see the opportunities.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah. I don't see the obstacles.
Yeah. You don't see the obstacles.
It's totally, I think I'm not very risk averse.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's something that's always been a awesome thing about me, because I don't see fear in a lot of situations. I'll figure it out.
Yeah.
No problem. I'll
Yeah.
make it work.
Yeah.
But also, actually productiveness and getting things done, that could be an issue. Like when I was in the hospital and I thought I could be paralyzed, and I was in the ambulance, and I was like, shit, you might actually be in a wheelchair the rest of your life. And I was like, fuck, so be it. Like I actually thought about it, and I was like, that sucks. I'll make it work. And that was exactly the thought that was going through my head. Like, that's gonna suck. Like I'm not happy about this at all whatsoever. This is horrible, but you'll figure it out.
Yeah.
And so I don't see like the fear and the problems. It's like, no, you'll just figure it out. But then the systems aspect of it. See, in some ways that's great. That's a healthy perspective. I think that keeps you out of a really scary downward spiral. And I just do.
Yeah.
But on the other end of things, without the foresight, having that mindset, but also then trying to manage people, team, assistants, copywriters, all the people that are in our organization, it's like, that's where that can come a bit of a problem.
Yeah.
And so that's when I really appreciate the way that you work, is like you think in a completely different way as me, but you get shit done. I don't have to micromanage at all. I just know you're going to be on it. You got a brain on your shoulders. It's like, great, use that the way that works. And so I super appreciate that. How do we find that in other people? Like, say for people listening that are like, I need to find a Saskia, get your own, but also, how do we find people that compliment us?
How do we find people that compliment us? All right. That's always the tricky one, finding the right talent, right? And I think you've said that you only want to work with A players. I think that should be, budget allowing. That's what you definitely should be aiming for. Ask your people. I think that the best way to find someone is through a connection, definitely, because then it's coming through word of mouth, right? So people have had the experience. I think, like I said, a lot of people who are a success might not talk about it a lot, but they have people that help them achieve that. So reach out to people and say, look, this is what I think I need help with. This is the kind of thing that I'm lacking in. Do you know of anyone? I think that's definitely the best place to start.
Yeah. Networking connection is super important.
Yeah.
We get so many people messaging us on the internet, and it's a lot of these like marketing bros that we've been dealing with, and because they're the ones that are hungry trying to find leads. So they're like, I'll redo your whole website for $500. Or, I'll do this, I'll do that. And it's like a lot of that, because we're in the information age, where it's coming to us on the internet, like nonstop. We're getting applications all the time with us that are like,
and even with that, right? People offering services for a low amount of money or even free. I'm still saying, hang on. Let's not say yes, because how much energy is it going to cost us to create a new website? Like we're going to have to deliver things, photos for them, copyright for them, etc. And it's going to take a lot of our time, right? So even when things are at a discounted rate or sound too good to be true, usually they are too good to be true, or, people are offering their services for some ridiculous amount of money, to really question still, even though it's cheap, is it something we should be doing?
Yeah. It's cheap, but is it inexpensive?
Yeah.
Like your time. Yeah.
What's the value that they're going to be bringing as well?
Yeah.
Right.
I think we live in a day and age of that, where there's just like, if you're building anything online, you're going to get people hunting at you right now. Like every single day I have somebody asking me, can I do this thing for you? Can I do this thing for you? And some of them are just like poorly written Indian people that are just like writing like can I make a website or something like that? And you're like, bro, like, come on, let me give you a little tips on your outreach. No, but here, let me help you if I feel in a generous mood. But the other ones that are like, they're pretty good, I have to really look into it. But we've been dealing with this because, to shift the marketing for Heart Warriors, for Ink, Pray, Love, like, okay, how do we stay current? How do we grow the business, but also stay in alignment with our integrity and us not being, these like marketing bros, like, oh, I don't like it. It doesn't sit well with me.
Yeah.
But then we're getting steered in a way by some younger marketing dudes that are like, hey, you should do this. You should do this. I really appreciate you being like, is that really what you want though? Because I could get swept away and like, no, but this is what's working right now.
No, it's easy to get seduced, right?
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah. And you just ask me that, the simple question, is that what you want? And I'll actually be like, No, it's not. Like
Mm,
it's that simple, just the mindfulness of having a friend that's going to be like, yeah, but is that what you want? Is that what you want?
yeah, yeah.
That perspective of like,
And I think that's something that we're not necessarily taught,
yeah.
but is really essential. And not just in business, in life, right? Like I'm a minimalist not only in business, but in everything.
Hmm.
And that is one of the most important questions but is that what you want? Right? Because we're taught, like more is more and bigger is better and we got to grow and we got to do this. But is that what you want?
Hmm.
There's not only one path that leads to Rome, depending on what is your Rome. I think that's also the main thing we have to really figure out in life and in business is what is your version of success? Because we might have been told that that is an X amount of income each month, or we might have been told that that's driving a certain car, or we might have been told it's a certain house, or whatever the thing is. But then to just pause and say, but is that what you want?
Hmm.
And that's, for me, the idea behind minimalism, whether in your life and in business, is to get really clear on what it is you want and then to make sure that every decision you make aligns with that. Because if it doesn't, it's taking you off your path. It's maybe putting you onto someone else's path to getting to someone else's version of success. But we want to focus on what you want.
Yeah. What
Yeah.
are some of the processes to like narrow that down? Do you have any like advice or any things that like, okay, how do you figure out exactly what you want?
How do you figure out what you want? I mean, I think that's something that everyone needs to be doing for sure. It really depends on who you are, how that is the best way for you to approach. But I guess just turning off the noise and really taking time to be by yourself. And it doesn't mean you have to do this I have an hour and I'm going to figure out what I want in life. Like it doesn't necessarily work that way for everyone. It could be that it's a process that you go through that every morning you're going to take 10 minutes to sit by yourself and figure out what you want. Or maybe you're going to take 24 hours out of the world and just sit down and try and listen to yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's also an ongoing process because what you want can evolve. And that's okay. I think sometimes we start on a journey and we think, okay, I have to get to this location. But as you're on that path, things shift. Relationships evolve, businesses change. You start one, you lose one, friendships end or start. And it can then change what the outcome is that you're trying to achieve. And that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
It's okay to have invested so much energy into something, trying to get towards it. And then I think it is such a courageous act to say, you know what? Despite all of the effort I've put into this isn't actually working for me anymore. It's not aligned for me anymore. And that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's such a skill and a level up, if you will, to be able to admit that something is not what you're going after and just to be able to let it go.
100%. I felt like that recently, coming back to Bali, leaving Vancouver, and like, oh, this is the thing that I want. But it's like, is it?
Mm-hmm.
It seemed like the thing that society wants for me.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that's really what I want. I mean, but also, I want to tail off that question. Do you think that what you want is also what you're good at?
I think those are two separate things.
Mm-hmm.
I think what you want, you might be a part of achieving that, but you might need other people to help you get there.
Mm.
It depends on what you're talking about.
Yeah, just in the sense like, okay, well, what do you want to do with the rest of your life? Well, would it be things that you're naturally good at? Is that kind of what you gravitate towards? Or would you want things, like truly want them, but like, okay, you're gonna have to figure this shit out. You're gonna have to get better at it to really want those.
Oh, I don't think necessarily we're born with all the skills we need to be able to get us where we want to go.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the part of continually evolving. And I think the majority, anything in life, it's about having the priorities, right? So if you decide you want to achieve a certain thing, you want to live a certain lifestyle, it's really easy to say, but I can't do this. It's like one of the things I teach my daughter. And I'm like, you're not allowed to say I can't. You can say, I can't do this yet. Because if you want to be able to do a handstand or you want to be able to achieve X, then you just add that little word to the end of it and say, I can't do a handstand yet. And I think that's an important mind shift change for people to understand. Just because you can't do something now doesn't mean you won't be able to do it ever. It takes setting it as a priority, setting the time to do it, and then actually doing the damn thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate that because there's so many things that I'm like, I'm not so good at, but I want to do it. I'm not good at meditating. I'm not, but I do it, but I'm not that good at it. But I want to be good at it.
Yeah.
And so I'm like continuously working at it. Like, oh my God, it's just like, it's not something I'm naturally good at. I have ADD. Like I'm bad at focusing at things, and I need to like really work on that. But I know if I keep working on it, I'll do better. And then I guess the other end of it was, okay, well, what about wanting to do things in your life that you are naturally good at? You know, like, okay, I'd bring it back to like say my core guiding principles in life, where I'm meant to give, connect, and inspire. Like that's kind of where I'm supposed to be living. I can see that's kind of in my essence. So as long as I do anything that's aligned to those principles, I'm in my zone of genius. I just need to kind of fit them in. And then the things that I'm not naturally good at, okay, that's where we find people that can help, you know, on those things. So I think that's like one end I'd like to see that in, is like where people are like, well, I want to start a business, but I don't know what. Like, okay, well, what are you naturally good at? Okay, what do your friends say about you? Like, what do they love about you? You know, ask your friends, what do they love about you? And you're like, well, okay, you're giving, you're caring, you know, you're hardworking, or if you find something, you focus on it, you really want to do it. You like talking to people, or maybe you don't like talking to people. It's like, okay, this is relevant information. Because it'll also help you balance in what type of people you need to balance you.
Yeah.
You know, so it's like,
well, those are the questions that helped me to figure out what my business was going to be. Because I was like, how can I do my work outside of a corporate environment? That's what I work in an office. How am I supposed to do this virtually? And by asking people those questions was exactly how I realized that this is the work I'm supposed to be doing.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So it was that you were like strong organizational skills? Like what was it?
Not
what came out of
only, yeah, that definitely that as well. But in a span of a couple of weeks, I asked my friends, and I also went to the seminar and asked strangers. And it was hilarious because they both said the same thing. People who had met me for 10 seconds and people who had known me for years. And it were the things that I sometimes thought were my faults. And they both listed them as things that they thought were my strengths, which are very even-keeled. You know, emotionally, I'm not really someone who goes like this. I'm kind of like the ship that just keeps going. You know, I'm not fast, but it's always steady, and I'm always trustworthy. But I always used to think that made me boring. Because I think, oh, I see all these people who have like these amazing experiences and ups and downs, and there's just me, you know, coasting along. And then having both these people say, oh, it's so great that even when other people are having these up and downs, that you're this like trustworthy, steady, always going, always calm, always dependable. And I thought, isn't that boring? And they were like, no, that is calming. I'm like, oh, okay.
That is a massive asset in a world full of people ping-ponging all over the place. That's just like one of the points of meditation, is to get your shit together and be even, like, you know, find equanimity in your life.
You got that.
Yeah, there we go. That's a difficult word, but definitely it's not easy. So I think that's a beautiful thing, and that's one thing I always like, value of you, is when I get to connect. It's like I often come in like, oh, I just had like 5 things happen today. Coming in like that energy, like, okay, what's happening next? What do we got to do? And it's just this like grounding force, and I think that's really important. When it comes down to then being, say, an entrepreneur that's all over the place, solopreneur, all over the place, got big social life, or many things happening in your life, and then getting down to getting stuff done and being effective. What are some of your go-tos? What would you tell me, say, if I'm having a super busy, crazy week and I got deadlines though?
Yeah.
Like, how do I produce?
Priorities. I think it all comes down to priorities. Again, it's boring me, repeating. What we've had in the past when we've had crazy busy times is that we look and say, okay, what is essential? You know, what's urgent and what's important, and to figure out what are the important things that can wait a little while and what's the shit that actually has to get done right now. So first of all, figuring out those priorities. And then secondly, looking at not only your business life, but your social life, and saying, okay, this is achievable. However, in order to be able to do it, you're going to have to maybe dig a little into your personal time. And so there's been times where you're like, all right, I'm going into muck mode for 2 weeks. I'm going to be getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning. I'm going to be working, 1 or 2 hours before I go to the gym doing XYZ. And we're just going to get it done. Because like I say, it's all about setting the priorities, right? If it's important enough, you will make the time. And there will be times when you have more time to socialize. But sometimes if it's important to you, if you really want to achieve it by Friday or whatever the thing is, you just look at the time you have available and say, okay, let's roll up our sleeves and figure it out. Or it could be that you then take the time and I ask you, do you really want to do this? Is this what you're after? And you go, actually, it's not that important. So we're going to say thanks, but no thanks, because there's a lot of opportunities that come on your plate, and it's okay to say no to some of them, because you have to look at, is the energy exchange worth it? The time I have to put in, the money it's going to bring in, or the exposure it'll bring in, is it actually worth it? So is it something you want to do? And if yes, does it have to get done right now? And like what I taught in Heart Warriors was the 4 Ds, right? So like how to deal with everything that's on your plate. And that is ditch, delegate, date, and do. So anytime you have all the things flying around in your head of all the tasks you have to do, first of all, your head is for having ideas, not holding them. So get them out, write them on a piece of paper, ideally put them in a task management system, ideally ClickUp because they love it. Get it all out of your head, first of all. Get it in front of you, because you can't organize things floating around in your head. You can try. You'll often fail. When you've got them all in front of you, with your priorities in mind, ask yourself, is this something I want to be doing? And look through them and really ask that question with each task. And if not, put a big fat black stripe through it, or delete it, or get rid of it. We're ditching it. That's the first D, right? Get rid of the things that are not serving you, that are not bringing you closer to where you want to get to, that are not helping you to achieve any kind of goal or value, or that aren't close to your heart, right? Get rid of them. And then with what's left over, we want to look at delegate. So you ask yourself, does it have to get done by me? Can I delegate this to a team member? Can I delegate this to a tool? Is there an automation I can set up? Is there some way that it can still get done without me touching it? And then hopefully you've gotten rid of a lot more stuff. And then we get to the third D, which is date, which is then we ask, does it have to get done now, or can it get done in the future? So maybe it doesn't have to happen until 3 months' time. Maybe it doesn't have to happen until next week. Put it in your task manager, put a date on it, and then you deal with that in the future. And then the last D is do. So these are the things that you haven't gotten rid of, you haven't delegated to someone, you haven't scheduled in the future. And then ideally, your list of shit you have to do is a lot smaller.
There we go.
Yeah.
Yeah, there we go. That's important. I definitely have to go through that process consistently.
Yeah.
And I find that when I'm looking at like my ClickUp tasks coming in, and I'm like, nope, later, yes, quick response, yes, no, yes, do it now.
Yeah.
And just get through those.
And it's a continual process, because things keep coming in, and it's also a training for yourself. I have for all my life been a people pleaser, and it's been something that I have had to really unlearn. And I had a very difficult relationship with saying no, because I wanted to be able to help everyone. I wanted to please everyone. And saying no to people was very difficult. But as time has gone on, and I've embraced my love of the word no, and I've had some amazing opportunities, potential clients, but it doesn't align with the thing that I am trying to achieve, then I say no. And it's not always easy. But the most important thing in the process is when someone brings an opportunity to me, that I have embraced the idea of taking a pause and just saying, oh, thanks so much. Give me a moment to think about that, or I'll get back to you tomorrow or next week or whatever, suits the situation. But just to take a moment to allow yourself to make the choice, and not that automatic, when someone says hi and you go, hi, how are you? Like,
I'm good.
Yeah, but just to think before you say the how are you, to think and go, okay, is this aligned with where I'm trying to get to? Does it fit my current reality? Like, how much time do I have available? How much money do I have available for this opportunity? And to realize it's okay to say no. You don't have to do everything.
It's so important. I find this really coming a lot into place socially. Like I have to really say no a lot more socially, because I'm consistently having people that are like, let's catch up. We should catch up sometime, or like we should hang out, or like new people wanting to be friends. And it's just like, it's a lot, because I have so much shit to do. And so it's like really important. But I also am super social. I'm a very social character. And I think it's part of, why my life's awesome, is to be a social character and have people doing cool stuff all around me, and, collaborations and connections. And it's just served me well for business. Like I didn't go to business school. I didn't study any of that. All my businesses came from knowing people and having ideas and having people to help me do them. Like networking is huge for me. But there's also the other side of that, where it's like, if I say yes to everything, I will not get shit done. And that's a common thing in Bali, is you can just sit in cafes and socialize with people all the time, and then you're broke. It's just part of the game, Yeah. And that's one thing I've had to use this exact type of method, is just like, do you really need to do that right now? Like, do you need to see this person? Or if there's like 4 or 5 of those happening at once, it's like, great, group dinner. I'm gonna put all you together and just
Yeah, for
time
sure.
efficient, see all of you at once, and you get to meet. You guys connect, but really I'm just being efficient for my timing.
Oh, I do the same. Like when I go back home and I visit and I'm like, I will be there, and every Friday I will be at this place at this time. And if you wish to see me, that is the time you can see me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's super important. The delegation thing, because one thing I struggle with, I'd say, is the holding people accountable, where I don't want to micromanage. I just want to create and do my own journey, do my things, but I also need team members to do
You
things.
want to dump and run.
Yeah. Let's not refer to my dating life. Now the other thing, it's horrible. I'm sorry. So definitely, in the sense, is needing to make sure that I'm able to stay on top of people, like, and it's tasks. This is just fucking going nowhere. This is going downhill south. Being able to hold people accountable, I struggle with that because I'm off on my own journey. I'm just getting shit done. I'm in creation mode, and then I come back and I'm like, wait, why haven't I done this thing? And I guess your answer, of course, is ClickUp tasks.
But my answer to everything.
How do we delegate efficiently and effectively that we get results?
Yeah. Okay. Something I see that often happens is that people will assume other people understand what you're trying to get done, right? And assumption is the mother of all screw ups. We do not want to do that, especially in business. And I was dealing with a similar thing with another client this week where I said, you can't just give this very simple outline of what you want someone to do. It has to be detailed. There has to be an actual KPI or something they can achieve, so that not only you, but they also know that you have finished this task when this happens.
Yeah.
Right? So whether that is you have to make 6 sales calls a week, or you have to empty the inbox every day, or you have to, rather than just say make sales calls or manage the inbox, you have to clarify what your definition is of a job well done. And it makes it easier for you to manage, and it makes it easier for people to live up to your expectation. Because if your expectation is not clear, like if you hire a social media manager and say, manage my socials, that could mean a million different things. Do you want them posting 3 times a day at a specific time on these platforms? Do you want them posting once a week on one platform? Do you want them replying to the DMs every day? Do you want them only doing that once a week? Like, you have to get really clear with what a job well done is when they know that they have finished the job or the task, so they can move on to the next. So it makes it easier for them, but you can then also easily check and be like, okay, checkbox. They had 6 sales calls. Awesome. They answered these DMs at this time. Awesome. Without that, neither of you are going to know when the job is done. You're going to get pissed off. They're going to be clueless. And it's really, nobody's fault, but also your fault as the delegator, because you haven't clarified what it is you want someone to do.
100%. It's as the leader, owner, whatever, CEO, business owner, whatever it is, it's always your fault. That's one thing I had to learn very clearly, was like, it's your fault.
Yeah.
Even if the other person was being incompetent, even if that, but you teach people how to treat you.
Yeah.
You teach people how to do their job. So if you're not setting up the right.
And I think it's, the idea that everyone understands what's going on in your mind, people do not know.
No.
And, especially like me, I come into a lot of different businesses, and everyone assumes that how they do it is how everyone else does it. I can tell you how you do business is not how everyone else does business, because we're our own individual persons and we have our little quirks and we have our little routines. Don't assume that everyone runs a business like you. There might be, even if you're following the same 6 steps to success bullshit or whatever, everyone still has their own way of doing it. So when someone comes to join the team, first of all, you have to clarify, this is how we run this business. These are our values. This is what's important to us. And in this role, we expect you to do XYZ. And by doing that, they know what to live up to. You know what to mark them against to see if they're actually doing their job. And then it's much easier to keep people accountable. Because if you have not clarified that and you're trying to see if one of your team members has completed their job, how do you know? Right? And it causes disagreements, and it causes more friction, I guess.
I feel like this is also like in relationships. Like as well.
Totally.
You teach people you got to play a game you're winning. Like you want to make sure that they're teaching you how to play a game to win. Like I want to know I'm doing a good job, but I want to know what a good job metrics
Yeah.
are. It's a shitty way
Yeah.
to say it, but you know what I'm
Yeah.
talking about.
Well, I think communication is
Yeah.
important, whether it's
Yeah.
in a relationship or business,
Yeah.
right? You have to know what everyone else is expecting.
Yeah.
Because how can you feel it a responsibility if you don't know what it is?
Yeah, exactly. I've been noticing that like correct praise is kind of how I tend to run things. And we were just talking before we started, and I had a new hire in one of the businesses, and maybe the onboarding wasn't done as skillfully as I could have because I was busy. I just didn't have time, and I was like, I'll get to it next week. But that person was really excited to start their position, so they're just doing a bunch of shit, and that stuff wasn't exactly in the parameters of the brand guidelines, or stepping on a bit of toes on other team members. So they're just coming in guns blazing, trying to make a difference, excited, but effectively not doing things correctly, or in a way that was making everyone else feel like, hey, this is what we're supposed to be doing. They're like, who the fuck, what the hell? And I'm like, oh, this is my fault. Like, I'm the leader. It's my fault. Without a doubt, this is me. And I had to step in and not be like, don't make that person wrong. They were just trying to do a good job. This is my fault for not onboarding correctly, because I was going to get to it next week and they were just excited to start. So this is a me thing. And then that helped take pressure off the team right away. Yeah. And I answered that publicly in the group chat, guys, this is on me. And thank you for taking initiative. I appreciate that energy.
Yeah, for sure.
Praise. Correct. Sure. Let's wait till we get brand guidelines. Let's wait till we get a agreed upon launch strategy between everybody, and praise again. But that energy is what's up. That's great.
Yeah, exactly.
And then every single person in that chat group messaged me privately, like, you handled that really well. Like, good job. Like that. Thank you for saying that. And like, good, well handled, well done. Yeah. Because it's so important, especially in a group setting.
Yeah, for sure.
To not come down on people, because we're sensitive creatures, and especially if you get kind of shit on in public, it's like, fuck this job. It's really quickly to be like that, especially also in an Indonesian culture, because this is an island nation, and island countries have a different way of dealing with things than actual like continental countries. So I read a book on this. It's super interesting. Like Soviet Russia deals with things very differently in their communication patterns than Taiwan. Of course they do. Dutch people are very, very different than the Indonesians, but they obviously have a connection.
And I'm happy that I don't support you in that part of the business, because I think that's very challenging.
We've been there. We've been there. It's not easy, right? It's a very different communication pattern. Whereas if you talk to someone in a Nordic country or a Scandinavian country, being direct is appreciated. It's a sign of respect and strength. Like, give it to me straight. Be direct. Be blunt. Let me hear it. And if you're pussyfooting around the situation, it's a disrespect. Like, oh, you don't respect my feelings. Like, you can't just say it.
Respect my time.
And then it's a weakness. So it's like, how dare you? Whereas here, if you come direct like that, it's like, whoa, that's violent. It's actually like, hey, whoa, that's a lot. And the worst thing you can do from anyone from an island is island nation or something like a tribal society like that is disrespect them in front of the peers, because the community is a big deal. So if you're then giving direct feedback in front of other people that are their peers, it's incredibly damaging for their ego. So that's harsh. So it's like, you have to be careful. You got to take them aside, indirect. It's just fucking dense.
I know. I mean, my husband is Balinese, and I've lived with his family for a while. And day one, it was very clear that what was very normal for me as a European, for them was very disrespectful. And like, okay, day one. Okay.
What did you do?
Oh, it wasn't actually me. It was my husband. But,
it's
neither here nor there. But just, learning about that there is definitely a difference in culture. Yeah. And I think that that's kind of my sugar and spice approach working with me, is because I grew up in Australia. But when I was 20, I moved to Holland, and I lived there for 15 years. So I've got, the very friendly, very chit-chatty Australian, but also the directness of the Dutch. And it's definitely, I think I found a good balance between the two, because when I first moved to Holland, I thought everyone hated me because they were so direct about what they thought of me or what they thought of what I did, until I realized, it's said out of love. It's not said out of hate. But it took me a long time to get used to that in the Netherlands. And now when I go back to Australia, I'm like, just say it. What are you trying to get at? Like, just say it. Yeah.
It's super funny that way, because like, I guess in the Indian culture and a bunch of other like ethnic cultures, my friends, like, I guess the elders, maybe it's just an elders thing, I don't know, but they'll be like, oh, you're fat.
Yeah. Oh, same here. Whenever I arrive here.
The
Yeah.
fuck? It's just like so direct in some ways.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, you're fat, aren't you? And you're like, what do you? Hey,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
like.
But they haven't grown up in a culture where that's a bad thing.
Yeah,
Like
exactly.
that's like, oh, you got enough food. Awesome.
Yeah, it's like a compliment. Thanks.
Yeah.
I like cinnamon rolls. They're plentiful.
Yeah,
I have
exactly.
an abundance of cinnamon rolls.
Exactly. Whereas if you come back skinny, they will like constantly feed you until
Yeah.
you've come to what they accept as
Yeah.
the right way to
Are
be.
you okay? Are you all right? Are you,
Yeah.
something wrong? Are you dying? It's like, no, I just did a diet. I'm training. Are you okay? Yeah, what's wrong? Eat. Yeah, it's super funny how that works. I don't know, we got sidetracked. The cultures but I was talking about the delegating situation and dealing with people. I mean, like, I think in the new day and age, with a lot of the people listening are going to be hiring out abroad. There's going to be VAs in the Philippines. There's going to be tech guys in
Yes.
India. There's going to be call setters in, Nigeria and this and that.
Mhm.
It's like, okay, there's a lot of different cultures you got to deal with here.
For sure.
Indians, we're spicy. And so it's like dramatic. But you got to get through. Philippines are incredible to work with. I found them very hardworking, very sweet, especially the Filipino females. We got, a few on the team. There's amazing, like very sweet,
Sure, yeah.
easy going. But delegation super important. And that's where I think that's where the tools like ClickUp and I love Notion. Your team ClickUp, I'm team Notion. We're the like Cold War over here.
Taking you over to the dark
You have
side.
taken me over the dark side. Yeah, I still love Notion because it's cute. It looks pretty. I can make it look nice.
Oh, ClickUp is cute and pretty too.
Yeah,
But that's,
it's sterile. It's the Soviet Union over there.
Minimalist.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
But the thing that I trip up on is I need to make sure I have a routine to use my organizational tools. And when I do that, I do so much better.
Yeah.
When I have that time in the morning where I get up a little earlier and I'm making sure I'm just going to spend 30 minutes doing planning shit, my world runs better.
Yeah.
And I don't forget meetings, or I don't, this and that, drop the ball on certain things.
Yeah, you have to set the example that you want, right? And
Yeah.
the fish stinks from the head down. So if this is maybe an Australian expression.
The what? Wait, what?
The fish stinks from the head down, which
The
means
fuck?
I don't know. Basically, you leading the business are the one that's leading as an example, right? And the shitty habits that you have are the ones that the staff or the team members
I
are going
hope
to take
not.
on.
They're going to be a bunch of addicts and
So
crazy.
it's one thing, and I know
debaucherous
that's one
humans.
thing we struggle with, is that we say, okay, team, everyone's got to respond to their ClickUp notifications every day.
Yeah.
But then you have to do it as well,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
if you're not, then everyone's like, oh, well, he doesn't do it anyway. And maybe
Totally.
that they don't think about it in that way, but that is how it kind of gets brought on.
Definitely, it's a lot of responsibility being a business owner. You have to make sure you're leading by example. It's a lot of pressure, but also it makes me a better human. Also, like in some ways, it makes me a better human because I know if I'm stepping into Karma House, I need to be in solid integrity. I need to be someone that's making everyone comfortable. I need to be like the ray of sunshine in there, because if I come in and I'm being a total dick, it's like, well, what kind of example am I setting?
Yeah.
I mean, naturally, I like to do those things anyways. I like to make people comfortable, but it's quite important. And I think entrepreneurship is a brilliant mirror for where you're at in life, mentally and emotionally, internally, spiritually, just like relationships are. 100%.
Total reflection.
I mean, we had a big downturn in the business Q1 because I was going through some crazy shit. Like I those like, exited 3 businesses, breakup, pivoting around the world, one business sale flopping. It was just a lot at once.
It was a lot.
So I was dealing with a lot at once, and I noticed where I was at internally was in a mode of like regrouping, healing, and pivoting, and the business reflected that. I was like, okay, so as Therese would say, our inner game is like 80% of it. Like we need to make sure our inner game's on point. 20% is actually the execution. Because if you're not feeling good, are you going to check your ClickUp notifications? It's like, no, you're probably going to eat a cinnamon bun.
But it's also maybe you're doing it, but you're doing it half-assed.
Yes.
Right?
Without a doubt, autopilot. Well, there's no in me personally, because creativity and intuition is such a big part of what I do. Like, if I'm not feeling spiritually centered and whole, and I'm hurting, I'm just in that space. If I don't address that, anything that I do, all the actions are kind of half-assed. They're just like pushing the buttons, and there's no soul going into it. I'm like,
And I know Therese, she talks a lot about business energetics, right?
Yes.
And I think energy is so important. How you're feeling when you touch the task that you're going to do or the work that you're going to create, it ripples. Right? That effect is coming on, no matter if you're speaking to someone or if you're actually creating something, the energy that you're feeling at that moment is going to be reflected in it. So if you're not feeling at the top of your game, people are going to see that. People are going to feel it. It's also like when you show up online and you're not feeling yourself, or, you're saying something you don't believe in and you think, oh, it's okay. I did well. People can sense it. Even if they don't intellectually register it, people feel these things, right?
This is exactly why those marketing bros stuff was like, ugh, like it's just
So
not
do you
me.
want to do this?
Yeah, like do you want to do this? And I'm like, I don't really want to say that stuff. It's not really like a, I don't want to brag about stuff that doesn't feel totally aligned to where how I feel, or it just doesn't feel good. It's like, yeah, because if you do that, you'll get the response of that.
Mhm.
And then you got a bunch of clients coming in that you don't really resonate with,
Yeah.
and like I love when I get clients that come in that are heart-centered entrepreneurs or want to become a heart-centered entrepreneur, and they realize they want some more in life. They're
Yeah.
like, you know what, I want to make a difference. I want to do something. I want to be healthier, happier. I
Mhm.
want to create something that matters. Great, perfect. But when they're just like, I want to make paper, and you're like,
Mhm.
yeah, like
Yeah.
I've been there. It's not really it.
Well, there's nothing wrong with making
You
money, but I think
have
it's
to.
the approach.
Yes.
It's the approach to it.
Yeah, exactly. It's definitely it. And yeah,
And depends on what industry you're in, right? Like
true.
if you're in an industry and you're using your name and you are the brand, I think it's very different than if you're just investing in some random business because the numbers look good. Like that's a total different approach.
1000%. It could be
Yeah.
the laundromat. You're
Yeah.
like, your laundromat doesn't have to have a huge brand story.
No,
It's like, just
exactly.
clean
You
my
don't have
fucking
to be
clothes.
emotionally attached to the laundromat.
Yeah. It's not a
Like
big
it
deal.
makes bank awesome. But
Right.
when it's your own brand or
Yeah.
when it's something that you're coming from the heart, that's just a whole different dynamic.
Yeah, exactly. I think a lot of people listening as well are heart-centered, solo entrepreneurs, building a brand for themselves or wanting to get out there, wanting to travel a bit more. Um, but I think they're at that stage as well as like, okay, cool. I don't need to do it all. Like they're waking up and seeing that, okay, I need
Yeah.
team, I need people. Where do you start if you're like, cool, I just need to expand a little bit.
Yeah.
How do I start building a team?
I think the most important thing, the first step is figuring out what do you love to do and what do you not love to do.
Mhm.
And that's definitely something you want to have leading in this decision making. To look at the things I don't enjoy doing it, I'm not great at it, or someone else could do it better. When you go through and you're working, you're doing your tasks, have a little notebook or in your Word document or whatever. Even in ClickUp, for example, I have sometimes that I use a tag where I'm like, outsource, because this is a task. I've done it a couple of times, and every time I'm doing it, I'm thinking, fuck, I have to do this thing again. I'm like, okay, when I have that feeling multiple times, that is a sign I should not be doing it, right? I'm not putting the right energy into it. So make a note of the things that you are not enjoying or that are really tough for you to do. You keep putting them off, the one that you keep changing the due date to tomorrow and then the next day and the next day. Those things are ideally ones that you want to be outsourcing. So first of all, just figuring out, how do you feel when you're doing a task? And then even if you're not at a position right now to outsource, you can create job roles, right? And that's what I have in my business. I have like these certain tags, like this would be for the VA or this would be for such and such, that I have built these kind of fictitious roles so that when I've reached a certain point in my business, I know exactly what that person's going to do. And it's not going to be that someone comes and I'm like, so maybe you can help me with stuff. No, it's going to be like, okay, these are the things you have to do. This is how it has to get done, to already start creating those roles.
That's an important one. That context setting for sure.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And I
Yeah,
think
yeah.
that the mistake that a lot of people make is their to-do list is full, it's overflowing, and they're like, I just need to throw some stuff over the other side of the fence for someone else to deal with. So I'll hire a VA. It's usually the first thing that comes in, right? Okay, but when you hire someone, that takes time and energy to onboard them. If you don't have systems in place, it's going to be a headache. So I initially started as a VA way back in the day. And there were two different clients that I would work for. The ones that had the systems in the place and the ones that were just throwing shit over the fence, just like deal with it, right? For the ones who told me to just deal with it, onboarding me took weeks, if not months, because I'd have to come back. How am I supposed to respond to this email? How do you want me to create this social media post? How do you want me to respond to this thing? What is the definition of how to do this task? Because it wasn't clear. And it would take forever to onboard me because I'd keep coming back with these questions and then get pissed off. You're supposed to save me time. And I'm like, yeah, but I want to do it right. So how do you want me to do it? Versus the people who are like, okay, I need you to do, this is the task. This is the KPI. This is the expectation. This is the system. I could just slide in and take over the role with no issue. And I think when you're looking at outsourcing, you really want to make sure that you've got the systems in place that support that.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah, 100%.
And for example, one of my first VA clients, when I stopped doing VA work, I had to go find replacements. The people that it took months or weeks to onboard me, I trained my replacement in half an hour. Like, think of the amount of money it saved them, because I'm like, This is the system. Here is an SOP. It tells you exactly how to do it. There is a video walkthrough. There is the link to the file that you need to have. This is the task, all of the things you have to do every week. And this is, when you know the task is done, this is your KPI. And they could just slot in. And if they forgot something, then look at the video and that would teach them how to do it. Rather than having to actually pay them a week's salary, basically, to learn everything.
Yeah, it's super, super important. I think it's a art form to be able to delegate well, like to give information fully is something I had to teach people that were working under me of like, give the fullest amount of information possible, not just a half-assed little like, here, do this.
Yeah.
Because you're going to waste way more time with the back and forth or the job being done incorrectly. And then you're like, no, what I meant was this. And just these back and forth. It's like, write a brief.
Yeah.
Write a detailed brief.
Yeah.
Include the links, include reference images, like include some context of what you want. So it takes an extra 5 minutes, sure.
Yeah.
But the back end it's gonna save you time in the long run, and you're gonna get a better product.
I mean, you have to slow down to speed up.
Yeah, and that's not my forte.
And people do not like doing that because they think, oh, I just want to, have it done. I'm like, no, do you want to do it right?
Yeah.
You want to just get it done and have to deal with, the shit that comes up later.
Yeah.
It really is an investment. Putting the time in up front to actually do the thing and make sure it's set out right. And one of the other things I do is I build ClickUp systems for people. And before we even get into ClickUp, it's calls one-on-one, just being like, how do you do everything? I want to know every detail. I want to know exactly every process. Because if I'm going to just take your existing way of doing work and shove it in a new system, I'm going to take all of your bad habits. I'm going to take all of the unnecessary tasks. So before we do that, and often my client, just build the thing. And I'm like, no, if you want it to actually be the foundation to scale your business, we have to slow down and we have to go through the nitty gritty and see exactly what you're doing. Get rid of all, ditch all the tasks you shouldn't be doing, delegate what you can be doing, streamline the shit out of it. And then we put it in a system. Then we automate it. Because otherwise we're just taking all your bad habits, all the systems that were created by someone who was not a system specialist. It's just a waste of time and money.
No, 100%. I like the way you think about that too, because I often will think in my head about what would Saskia do? It's like, because there's things of like, should I buy this? Or, like, would I need this? Or would this be a good usage of my time? And I just like channel you. And I'm like, nah. I can
channel me.
Do you really need that? I'm like, no, I don't, Saskia. Thank you. Thank you. Like, it's actually super important to have a Saskia in your life.
You should get a tattoo or something.
Yeah,
right?
What would if I could find some room, just like what would Saskia do, right? Or like just a ClickUp logo or something.
Just WWSD.
No, really, I think it's super important for people to learn these, and I hope you're going to be putting out more content about these fundamental keys there of just like how to get things done, informational ones of just like how to get things done more effectively, because there's so many people you saw on Heart Warriors. There's a bunch of, entrepreneurs that are, heart-led, wanting to serve the world, but systems might not be their forte.
No.
They're usually working in a bit of a different, emotional service realm of, tarot or something, but they're awesome, or like, or human design or whatever they're doing.
Sure.
So this end of things, they're like, oh, wait a minute.
Yeah.
But I think it's beautiful that people can see that, okay, to be a better entrepreneur, I'm going to need, or even intrapreneur, I'm going to need these habits and tools and skills.
Sure.
Because it creates freedom later on and less of a headache and less of a mess. I mean, just us going over like, okay, budgeting. I never had to learn that. I was a drug dealer. I just was like, get money. And, it's just like, it just wasn't a thing. And now I'm like, okay, like, budgeting is very important. I and there's fun ways to do it. Fun.
Yeah. And not to see it as a limitation, but rather as information that you can make educated decisions with.
Yeah, and I think you did a great job with that, especially with your story of going, and you raised such an incredible daughter. She's so beautiful and smart, and just the way that you're doing things, I feel like you're also, minimalism in like the attention, that like what we're putting our attention on, and intention on what we're putting it on. So like you direct that really well of like, is that a priority, or maybe this is the way that we should think in this way. And I think you're just a great mom. The way that you do that is inspirational, and like, it shows because you have a great daughter. So it's really cool to see people that are doing a good job of where they focus their priorities and attention, and then what their offspring is like. It's like a direct, you see those kids at the supermarket that are just doing crazy shit, and you're like, your parents must suck. That's judgmental.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. I mean, especially after many years of living in Auburn, seeing or Buddhian's offspring. And think,
You're like,
you promote one thing, however.
yeah, it's a direct relation.
Yeah.
But I really appreciate you coming on and sharing some of your gold, and also what all you've done for us, and seeing where we can take things. And I really would love to see more content for you. I'm challenging you a little bit here right now.
Okay, yeah,
People
yeah.
are going to follow you from this podcast and ask her for some organizational help and get her to build you a ClickUp, back end so you can be super, super organized. But teach more, because you have so much gold to give. You
Yeah.
really do. Like
Thank you.
you are a wealth of knowledge.
Yeah.
But also she's mine, so fuck off. I'm just joking. Thank you so much for coming on the show today. I
Yeah,
really
thanks for
appreciate it.
having
It's a
me.
long time coming.
Yeah, getting out of the back end.
There
Thanks
you
for
go.
having me.
My pleasure. And you can find her at Saskia Mardi on Instagram. We'll put the links in the show notes, saskiamardi.com, I believe. Again, don't message her. She's mine. And thank you so much for joining this episode of the Ink Pray Love podcast. I hope you found some value in it. If you have a friend who's a starting out entrepreneur who's like, dude, I'm just trying to figure things out. How do I delegate? How do I get a VA or whatever it is? Send them this episode, please. Share Saskia's page with them. She answers all her DMs. I answer all mine. If you got any questions, we're here to help. That's why we do this podcast. So please, if you could share it for me, if you could subscribe, do all those things, I'd really appreciate it. It helps me grow the show. And if you could follow LightHouse. LightHouse is awesome. They're doing this for us. It's the premier content creation studio on the island. If you're in Bali, come visit. We'll buy you a coffee, and hopefully we'll see you on site. Peace, homies. See you on the next episode. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Ink Pray Love podcast. I hope you found it inspiring, entertaining, funny, and also feeling a little bit more present and connected to yourself. Please leave a review and like and subscribe and do all those things. I'd really appreciate that. As well as, if you're feeling in a giving mood, this podcast is there for the charities that I love to support. Go to www.arenbaya.com/charity and get some of those good karma points. This podcast is brought to you by LightHouse Studios in Bali, as well as Full Reset Coaching. That is my coaching practice. And if you're looking for help in business, inner game impact, and building your legacy to be something you're proud of, your brand, your business, and how you walk the earth and who you impact, and also having the mindset and the heart set to be able to be happy handling it all, I'm here for you. Just DM me. Let's go. Peace out, homies. I'll see you on the next episode.